Okay, so let's start. First is the county. And you can type in either the name of the county or the code. For Bergen, it's 02. The town. Let's do Mahwah because it's a short name. How's that? Sorry, it moved on. And block and lot are from the tax records. Okay. Block and lot are from the tax records. Before you take a listing, and actually before you meet with the sellers, you should run a copy of the tax map through Realist, flip over and look at the flood maps just to make sure you're not going to be surprised. Okay, you should also confirm their taxes with them. So you do block, and if the block has a suffix, or in the light lot, and if the lot has a suffix. For example, it might be lot 10.2. The 0.2 would be the suffix. Street number. Let's do, I don't care, anything. 213, how's that?
Do you mind, Patty?
Pardon me?
You can do mine if you want an actual property.
Sure, it doesn't matter, but sure, it'll give me, you can yell at me numbers. Sure, what's your number?
I'm renting, so it's 22.
Okay.
Maple Avenue.
Okay. Now, north, south, east, or west. So if it were West Stevens or South Mahwah, I would put that here. The mode is, did you say avenue?
Yes.
Okay. And when you are loading this into the MLS, use the drop downs whenever you can, because if you put something in and it doesn't match, it's not good. Price, I'm going to skip over because that's just not relevant to our session today. And then directions, how do we get to the subject property? As the listing agent, I'm going to want to bring prospective buyers and realtors in through the nicest way. It doesn't mean I'm being dishonest. They can go home however they want, but I'm going to bring them in where they see the prettiest. The listing date will be actually, and you can see a calendar comes up, it will be actually the date that it takes effect. The expiration date, usually 6 months. If it's anything less than that, please counsel with your broker. Okay. So listing date and expiration date. Do you have to have an expiration date?
Yes, I think so.
What if it's somebody who says, hey, listen, you know, Angie, I like you a lot. Let's just put this and we'll decide together when it expires. I don't know whether you're going to do your job. So
I think you're supposed to have expiration date.
There you go.
I think so.
Yes, it's the law. It would be invalid if it didn't. Okay. All right, there I am. Okay, what's an exception? Think of it, it's an exception to the listing agreement. A scenario, you have someone who tries to sell their house on their own, a for sale by owner, private seller, whatever you want to call them. And they say, you know what, Daniel, I'd like to list with you, but I have 2 people who saw the house this past weekend. They really seem interested. If they buy, I don't want to pay you a commission. They would be exceptions to the listing agreement if you agreed. Exceptions have to be, then Daniel would say, okay, Lisa, what's their names? What's their addresses? Because you have to be able to identify them. It can't just be anybody for obvious reasons. And you put a deadline on the period of exception. In other words, if they don't buy if they don't come and give you a bona fide written contract offer within a week to 10 days, they are no longer an exception. They can still buy, but they'll be going through the real estate community. Does anybody need for me to explain that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. An exception is someone who would be outside the listing agreement. Outside the listing agreement. In other words, a commission would not be due. I apologize for my phone ringing. In a minute, I'll go answer it and turn it off. If they buy, then there's no commission due. All right. However, you can proceed to list the property and fully market it. Okay, I have to turn that off because that's annoying me. Sorry.
So Patty, that would be like if I showed my neighbor kept coming over to look at the house. We were talking about it. They really want it for their daughter. They're not sure, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
She's an exception. We give her 1 month or 2 weeks. We give her 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks to make a decision.
Right.
She decides not to buy it in that term. Daughter's still unsure. I now have an agreement for 6 months. A month later, she says, I decided we're going to buy it. She's no longer included because her time period lapsed. Is that what you're saying?
No, she's no longer an exception. She can go ahead and buy.
I mean, she's no longer an exception.
Yes.
Okay. Because she waited too long.
Yeah. Most of the time, the exceptions, if they haven't bought, they're not going to.
Okay.
But some of them do express some sincere interest. The best way to get them on paper is the homeowner to say, hey, listen, right now you and I are working directly without a realtor. But in 10 days, there's going to be a realtor involved in a commission to be paid. Okay?
You write something in exceptions like C notes and write all this down below the contract somewhere?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It can be an addendum. You can put it under remarks. Okay. It should be on the piece of paper that the seller signs and that you sign.
Good deal. Thanks.
Yeah.
It would be transparent to everyone, all parties.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I just having some construction done, and that was the contractor. Okay. So that would be exceptions. We don't like exceptions, but sometimes we have to agree in order to take the listing and proceed. Owner's address, sometimes it's not the same as the subject property. Listing broker ID, that is your MLS ID. It is not your real estate commission license ID. That is your MLS ID and the broker's ID. So the broker and the salesperson. Do you know where to find that information?
No.
Go into the MLS. Are you all a member of NJ MLS? Or
yes.
Going to be? Okay.
Yes,
go into the MLS, and on the landing page, on the menu, there's one that says roster. So go in and look for yourself. It gives you your MLS ID number. It gives you your real estate license number, as it does anybody else's. So that's a good place to, there's good information there. Okay. So if there is a co-listing person, sometimes people share listings, right? So that all has to be filled out. Okay, another conundrum is the dual commission arrangement. What is a dual commission arrangement? And I will tell you, it's not uncommon to have this incorrectly answered.
I would assume.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, all right. I would assume it's when the seller agrees to pay both fees to one agent, a full commission, I would think.
Good try, but no. Good try. Yeah. Dual commission arrangement. Okay, we're at the listing. Daniel, you're the seller. And I say, and you're giving me a hard time. All right. So I say, Daniel, tell you what, you're giving me a hard time on commission. I want to say, I tell you what, Daniel,
Hey, Amanda.
I'm going to charge you 5%. But if I bring the buyer, I'll charge you only 4.5. There's a dual commission arrangement.
I can work with that, Patty.
Okay, then for some people, that's what you need to do to get the listing. I personally feel, first of all, that doesn't happen as frequently as you'd think it would be with all the marketing that you do. You'll certainly, with all your marketing, attract buyers, but they may not be the right buyers for this house. I hate to see that. You will, the answer, let's say, would be yes, or just a why. If you have to do that to get a listing, I want you to rethink your listing presentation to see where there might be a gap in the value perceived by a seller. Okay? Because you're going to be doing a tremendous amount of work when you are a single licensee dual agent. One license doing both jobs. That's a single licensee dual agent. All right, so I like to see you put no. I will tell you, beware, you may see that it's yes. Let's say you're a buyer's agent and you're looking at, it says dual commission arrangement, yes. Challenge the listing agent on it. Just say, I see you have dual commission arrangement. Is that true? Oh, I don't know. What does that mean? Don't be surprised. The only reason that would be of issue would be if the listing agent had a buyer themselves. Because then you're competing against the listing agent's buyer. Okay? And so if there's a different commission structure on that between the with the buyer that the listing agent has and your buyer, that puts your buyer at a disadvantage. So whoever has a cute little dog, if you could mute yourself, I'd appreciate it. So that could put your buyer at a disadvantage. So you have the right by your code of ethics to ask the listing agent, I see there's a dual commission arrangement. Do you have a buyer who's bidding on this house, who's making an offer? And if they say yes, then you have every right to ask, what is the differential on the commission? Is it 1/4%, 0.5%, a full percent? You have the right to know that so that you can then structure your offer accordingly. Okay? Questions on that? Questions?
How common is that, have you found?
The dual commission arrangement is unfortunately more common than I would like to see. I don't know whether it's always accurate on the listing because people don't know how to describe it. Okay, exclusive agency. What is that? Now I'm taking you back to your Real Estate 101. What's an exclusive agency?
Only allowed for the brokerage to sell it.
Somebody has a cute little dog.
What?
Yeah, if you could put yourself on mute, I would appreciate it. Okay, what's an exclusive agency? Real Estate 101, help me.
If the listing is kept in-house, it's only for that brokerage only.
No.
No.
No, who said that? That sounded like Roddy. Is that you? Who is that?
Jim.
Jim, no. That's an office exclusive.
Exclusive agency is when oh my God. I know exclusive right to sell.
Is what we do most of the time. Exclusive right to sell.
Right. Exclusive agency is you're selling it, but then if the seller sells it, you do not get a commission.
Correct. An exclusive agency The seller has the right essentially to have a parallel marketing effort in finding a buyer. We don't do those. There's no reason to do those. And let me tell you why. Picture this. Valerie has, no, it's not Valerie. I think that's Miriam. Miriam is the seller, and she has, who else do we have? Donna as her agent. But Miriam's going to continue to try to sell it on her own, even though Donna has the listing. So let's say Miriam has a buyer who's interested, but the realtor community has brought in a buyer also. Now the homeowner is going to call their buyer and say, listen, I just got an offer through the realtors where I have to pay a commission, but if you come up to XYZ amount, I'll take your offer because I don't have to pay a commission. You and I are buying directly. Okay, so that's exclusive agency. And that's the scenario that would absolutely be a beehive if you took an exclusive agency. Better to just stay away from it. Okay, rooms. Rooms. Any questions on exclusive agency? Hopefully you'll put no for DCA and no for EA. You'll put no for both and just make life easier. Rooms. Okay, which rooms are not counted when you're walking through a house and counting rooms? Which rooms do you not count?
Bedroom, bathroom, hallway, foyer, closet, laundry.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I remembered. I was always unsure. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't count an entry foyer. You don't count a hallway. Don't count bathrooms. It's literally bedrooms, living room, dining room, kitchen, family room, den, great room, theater, however. All right, let's talk about bedrooms. What qualifies as a bedroom? Because you will go through
a home. Closet.
Yeah, it has a closet. There's some wiggle room with that, Leslie, in that I've seen appraisers count a bedroom that did not have a closet, but there was a closet in the hallway right outside. So I think there's some wiggle room on that closet, but I'd still try to make sure there's a closet. It's always safer.
It needs to have a door.
Has to have a door. What else does it have to have?
Proper window.
Did I hear window?
Yeah,
Window.
proper windows.
Yeah, window.
Yes. A window, and not just a small basement window, you know, the tiny typical basement window. It has to be a window large enough for a man with a backpack to get in and out. In other words, a fireman. Okay, so some of those, you'll go into some homes and you'll see that they've done a beautiful job downstairs in the basement, making a bedroom. It's got a closet, it's nice and big, but it's got a small window. Not good, can't count it. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, or if it doesn't have heat. Sometimes people have done their attic, made it into a bedroom, and because it's the attic, it sometimes gets very warm because heat rises. But if it does not have its own source of heat, you can't count it as a bedroom. Okay, full baths. What constitutes a full bath? If it only has a shower, is that a full bath?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Essentially a three-piece room counts as a full bath. Sink, commode, and tub or shower, or both. Half bath.
Two-piece.
Two-piece. Okay. And in some of the older homes, you will see a quarter bath. Strictly the commode. All right, especially down in the basement. Some of those old homes in Glen Rock and Ridgewood. Okay. Is there
Patty,
solar?
question?
Sure.
Oh, quick question. A powder room. A powder room is what, like a half a bath?
Yes. It's two-piecer.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Is there solar? Are there solar panels? And the next question is, are they leased or owned? Because there's a special agreement that the attorneys have to draw up. So you want to make sure that that information is clear and communicated to everyone. Okay, style of the home. Style of the home. I may take a minute. We're still sharing here, right? You know what? I'm not thinking I can do it. Forget it. When you go into the MLS and you click on add modify listing and go into add a listing, when it comes to the style section, there will be a question next to it. And you can click it and up comes a list of the different styles and examples of the homes. What's a center hall colonial, side hall colonial, French colonial? What's a bi-level? What's a split level? Sugar maple split, a Cape Cod, all of that. So take some time and do that. Any questions on that? And then it says sub-style. So I mentioned split level, could be a sugar maple split. Okay, could be colonial, could be a side hall colonial rather than a center hall.
Heidi, I have a question with that. So I know what you're talking about on the MLS, the descriptions. Is that how you would do it, or is there a way to confirm whether you are choosing correctly?
Well, you kind of know that. You just kind of know that. You're reading through the MLSs every day. So that in itself is an education on styles. The question comes when you are listing a home of a style that you know is not as popular as some of the other styles. Let's face it, colonials and ranches are the most popular styles. So if you're listing something else, you're tempted to put down colonial when indeed it's not colonial. They've decorated it in a colonial style. The floor plan might be a floor plan that's colonial style, but if the exterior is a bi-level or a contemporary, you got to call it that. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, just go in and get into the MLS every day and just see what's going on in your town. And just notice how the properties are described. If I serve no other purpose tonight, that'll work. Taxes, where do you get the taxes?
Owner and the property owner?
Not necessarily reliable, since many people have a mortgage and pay taxes within that monthly payment. Two places.
Public record? Public record?
Okay, but let's make that easier. You actually, in your MLS, can do a tax search and enter the subject property. Now, you can also, while you're in the MLS, adding the listing, I think there is a link to the tax info on that page. Okay. I'd like you to know it ahead of time, because when you do the walkthrough and when you sit with your homeowner, you want to confirm that that's what they're paying. And if they have any concessions, seniors or veteran, that should also show in the tax search. Okay. When do our taxes, new taxes come out?
August.
August, thank you. August. So that if it's end of August or September, the MLS probably will not be accurate, will not have been updated yet. So then you can either reach out to the town or ask the homeowner for their tax statement that gets mailed out in August. Okay? By the way, if you're working with a buyer and you're selling a house during August or September, you have the same issue. So you have to ask for the updated taxes. Approximate lot size, that is in the tax records. The frontage, you can pull that from the tax map. Okay. Would you like me later to show you how to get the tax map and the tax search? I know I've done it before. Maybe some of you would like to see it again. Okay, approximate lot footage, that's from the tax information, sewer and water source. This is something that you need to know. And sometimes it's just by knowing your towns. You can always ask the homeowner, are you sewer? And you should confirm. I know you would say Ridgewood is sewer, right? You'd say every home in Ridgewood is sewer. There have been exceptions where people did not hook up. And water source, same thing. Just confirm, say it's my understanding, your municipal sewer and municipal water. Is that correct? Okay, now ground floor. Does every style of home have a ground floor?
No.
No.
Right. Which ones do?
Ones that have a basement?
Actually, those are the ones that probably don't have a grade level or a ground level. Bi-level, a bi-level or a split.
No. What about raised ranch, no?
I'm sorry?
Raised ranch?
Raised ranch would probably be grade level also. For those of you who don't know a raised ranch, you walk in and there's maybe a room or two, but the majority of the living space is on the second floor. It's like the ranch has just been raised. That would be ground floor or grade level. Okay, first floor would be what we're normally used to. You walk in, there's an entry foyer, and you would put entry foyer, formal living room, formal dining room. Oops, not so many dots. Okay, and just describe the house. What is a MEIK?
Modern eat-in kitchen.
Thank you. What makes it eat-in?
If it has a, yeah, there's a table that fits in.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be stretched to little stools, counter with stools. What makes it modern?
Running water now.
You're close. You're close. A dishwasher.
Oh, God.
Gosh, can you believe it? I know. Okay. And then the second floor would be bedroom, 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 master bedroom, master bedroom. And you could put ensuite or master bath / Are these starting to look a little familiar to you? These abbreviations? I encourage you every day to go on the MLS, read the listings, not just the price in the town, read them so that these questions, because you'll come across, what's WBS? When I was new, I was thinking, what is WBS? Maybe wet bar with a sink. Well, that's kind of redundant. What it is wood burning stove. So you really need to, because it's a language. It's, as a listing agent, it's the way you're going to communicate to the agents out there who are going to show your property. And then third floor, it is what it is. And then basement is usually subterranean, but there are what's called a daylight basement or a walkout basement. You've all seen those where the front of the house is, the basement on the front of the house is totally underground, but the property's on a hill. So the back of the house looks much taller than the front of the house. And the basement is a walkout basement or a daylight basement. Are you with me?
Patty, is it only considered a walkout basement if you can like physically walk out through a full door versus going up steps and out Bilko doors?
That's a good one. That's a good question. The Bilko doors, if you've got Bilko doors and you're walking up, then you're not totally a walkout. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be misleading. You know, those are good questions, and sometimes it's good to just ask people because every house is so unique. But I'm comfortable with my answer. That would not be a walkout basement. It could have nice big windows and give you the feeling of a daylight basement. But yeah, if you're walking up to get out, it's not a walkout. All right, now over to the right, you see EL, JH, and SH. Do you know what those stand for?
Schools.
Elementary school, junior high school, senior high school.
Perfect, perfect. Please be accurate on those because some people buy a house based solely on the school district. So if you have to call the Board of Ed to confirm, please do that. Okay, items included. Please be very specific when you speak with the seller because they may say, oh, the refrigerator's included. And they may be talking about the refrigerator down in the basement and not their beautiful refrigerator in the kitchen. So be very specific. Same with items not included. Now over to the right are easements. What's an easement?
When something runs through your property, power lines possibly, or
sure,
drain pipe.
Exactly,
drainage.
Exactly. And an easement gives the person, usually utility companies, the right to access. All right, you've seen utility companies maybe pruning trees on property sides. They don't even need an easement to do that. But that's what an easement is, and it's usually represented by dotted lines on the tax map. What's a municipal assessment? We haven't seen this in a while. A clear example would be decades ago when towns were putting in the sewer systems. Each individual homeowner had to hook up to the pipe that ran down the middle of the road. The town put the pipe in the middle of the road, but they didn't do it because they loved you. And they're going to assess you how much it costs to run the pipe in front of your property. Okay. For example, when I moved into my house, it had a septic. And short time there later, the town enabled us to hook up by sewer. The town ran a sewer pipe down the middle of the road. We had to pay to hook up. We were also assessed for the pipe in the road. The towns usually are very nice. They'll give maybe 10 years to pay off that assessment. All right? They don't want the homeowners to be burdened. Know that any municipal assessments must be paid off at exchange of title, at passing of title. It has to be paid off. Who pays it off could be a point of negotiation, but it must be paid off at transfer of title. Okay? You know where you're going to see that? At condos. You're going to see that more in condos where maybe they just had to redo the parking lot or they had to do all the roof, and each individual unit would be assessed, and the assessments may be for 1 year, or the assessment may be for several years. So as a listing agent, you're going to want to make sure that that's what the details are. As long as we're talking about assessments and stuff, any of you familiar with any lake communities? Ramsey Country Club, Pines Lake and Wayne, they have, each homeowner is assessed who are in that community. And those assessments must be current. In other words, they must be paid like taxes, or it will be a blemish on the title. So if you're sitting down with someone who is part of a lake community, part of a country club, or some place where they have a monthly or quarterly assessment, ask them if it's current, because if it's not, it has to be straightened out before closing or paid at closing. Questions? Okay, possession. When does the seller want to be out? When can they be out? What are you seeing most frequently in the MLS?
Contingent upon,
Usually the computer.
Sorry, I was thinking of something else.
Okay, the computer makes you pick. If you do a drop-down menu, it gives you 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 to 120.
Is standard, I'm sorry to interrupt, yeah. Is standard usually like 60, like 2 months?
Yeah, the standard is like 30 to 60. However, if the seller wants a quick close for any number of reasons, they'd put down 0 to 30. Maybe they're already out of the house. And so you bring in a buyer who wants a 60 to 90 day close, it becomes a point of negotiation. All right, if the buyer needs a little more time than the seller wants to give, then the seller's going to want a higher price, because then the seller has to pay more maintenance, taxes, or whatever. Okay? But make sure you know that. And when you show houses, you should make sure you know that. The next question is this house also for lease? Okay. Showing instructions, that appears only for the realtor. And then customer remarks. That's what's going to go on the internet. So that's the most important ad you can write. Make sure that first sentence grabs people's attention. You can put the utilitarian comments later on. Okay? And I want you to start reading the remarks and say, wow, that was a good description. I think I'm going to, at a future date, copy that. Go ahead and do that. All right, exclusive listing agreement. So now we kind of repeat some of what we've already done. And it asks you again for the listing date and the expiration date. Please make sure that it matches what you put up on top. Okay, in consideration procurement of the property described above at a listing price, well, you already put that in. With the possession date of, you already put that in. The next paragraph, seller further agrees to pay the broker a compensation of 5 or 6%, depending on how good you are delivering that value proposition. Okay, so that's the whole commission. And then it goes on to into agency. What's a document in New Jersey without it having multiple references to agency? And here you are going to be acting as a seller's agent and disclose dual agent if the opportunity arrives. So you would check there. Okay, everybody comfortable with that? Questions? Okay, and then this next paragraph is what we call the protection paragraph. And what it says, in the event that the property or any part of it described in this agreement becomes subject to a written or other agreement by the buyer and seller or their designees, or is sold, conveyed, or leased in any way, transferred within, frequently you'll put in 90 days, after the expiration of this agreement, to anyone to whom the seller, broker, or broker salesperson, cooperating broker, or buyer's broker, blah, 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 had introduced the property during the term of the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. In other words, that prevents the buyer and the seller from kind of getting together in the corner and saying, hey, my listing expires in 1 week, come back and, why don't you come back after that? And we'll cut the realtor out. So that's your protection clause, and that's why you want to put 90 days. All right. Questions? Okay. So authorization is hereby granted by seller to submit the listing to the New Jersey Multiple Listing for distribution to all broker members. Unless this box is checked, the seller authorizes the listing to appear on all the websites. And unless this box is checked, the property address will appear on all websites. So you just leave them blank because you want the address to appear, because especially when you have open houses, right? All right, does this look familiar to anyone? It's the Attorney General's memorandum and must be part of the listing agreement. Okay, must be. Frequently, it is on the back page of the listing agreement. And it just says, hey, we don't discriminate. If you want to discriminate, I'm not your listing agent. I'm going to be very serious. If a seller, and we see this particularly with rentals, wants you to kind of filter through the buyers or the tenants, you walk away. That's not who we are at Keller Williams, number one, and it's not worth your license. That is one infraction that nobody tolerates. Okay, so no discrimination. And we tell the sellers, hey, we'll not be a part. So act correctly. Here's the addendum to the multiple listing system. Now it does ask you for the MLS number. You don't have that yet because you haven't loaded it yet. So don't worry about it. You can leave that blank. It asks you for the property address and the town. And then if you go down to the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, it says on this listing, the broker is offering a commission split of blank to potential cooperating brokers. Now, why there's a whole separate page for this rather than it being in part of the listing? Let me see. Yeah, I have to go back up because I did skip over. It's a reiteration. There must have been an issue. So it's common that we offer 2.5% to the cooperating broker minus a listing fee. And then you sign, the owner signs, and everybody's happy. I did skip over that. I don't know how I did that, but I did. Let's go back up.
So we write 2.5% in that area?
Yes, yes. When we were up here, listing broker ID, I skipped over where it says agency disclosure. You will work as a seller's agent. Even though later on we said seller's agent or disclosed dual agent, but you don't have that choice up here. And then compensation to a buyer's agent would be 2.5% minus. I'm seeing 250 a lot. Okay.
I was just going to ask, how do you distinguish the price?
The 250, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 200, 250, 300. I mean, like,
yeah,
what's...
I know. You know, I'm seeing you don't want it to be so large that it discourages realtors from bringing their buyers. It's common that 250 on a residential. Quite frankly, it doesn't cost anywhere near that. I mean, that's the listing fee, and it doesn't cost anything near that to put the listing on the MLS. I think it's what, $50? I don't know the latest. But to be honest, it does help pay for putting in your sign and buying the lockbox. So, yeah, and years ago, it used to buy the lunch on Realtor Tours. So that's how it came to be. So
you'd say the average is 250?
Yeah, I would look to see what it is when you're doing your CMA, what's average, and just make sure you do not put your seller at a disadvantage. Okay. And I said 2.5. That's the minimum. If you get a 6% listing, you can offer out 3%, or you can offer out 2.5 and keep 3.5. You can do that. It doesn't, the commission doesn't always have to be split 50-50, but your homeowner has to know. That's what that separate piece of paper was. Compensation to transaction agent, you can make that the same as the buyer's agent.
Patty, can I ask you something? I heard that for new constructions, they give 4%.
That's
most
correct.
of it.
That's correct.
So then I'll put my offer for the buyer 2%. They
Yes.
may not be interested, right? As much as normally
Well,
is.
it's the realtor that gets the 2%. It has nothing to do with the buyer. But you bring up a good point.
Not a buyer, the buyer's agent I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, a new construction, it's kind of an industry standard. It's a professional courtesy because builders list with realtors. I mean, that's what they do. So as a professional courtesy, when it's new construction, we frequently take it at 4%. And then obviously the compensation would be 2% to buyer's agent and transaction broker. Yeah.
Okay.
Sub-agent, 0. Never invite or compensate a sub-agent for legal reasons. Okay. That means that's an agent working under you and you would be legally liable for their behavior and what they say. So, yeah, sorry I skipped over that. Okay, but you can see they ask again, list date, expiration date, price, possession, compensation. And then we have the Attorney General memorandum and then the special page. Like I said, there had to have been an issue with NJMLS where they had to, because Garden State doesn't have this. Okay. Doesn't have a separate page highlighting the compensation to cooperating brokers. So that's the listing agreement, guys.
Where do we get this listing agreement from, the MLS?
You can do it through the MLS. You can create a listing agreement through the MLS under add modify a listing. But I think you need to learn how to use command. So it would be in opportunities in command. There are classes offered all the time. Plus there's the 66-day challenge for learning command. Just make sure it's current because especially in opportunities, things have been evolving and improving. You also need to check in your market center whether you are using DocuSign or .loop. I know in Woodcliff Lake, we are no longer using .loop. We are only using DocuSign.
I think that's what we're using.
Okay. Yeah.
Patty, Pat, can I ask you something? So when we get a listing, we don't enter in under New Jersey MLS. We just enter into the command.
No, this is the listing agreement.
Yes.
This is the listing agreement that you have the owner sign. Then you have to go into the multiple listing and enter it.
So what's the point of going to command then? Just to have them printed?
Look, that's your file folder. That's your record. That's if the real estate commission ever comes, they have the right to pull your folders and say, let me see your listing agreement.
Oh, okay, so that's for me to keep at home, you mean, right?
What did you say?
That's for me to keep. The folder that you said.
Command is your folder. Not a physical folder, it's a digital folder.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Ooh, you got me nervous there. Glad we clarified. Yes. Many people sit down with the seller to go through the listing. So you need paper signing unless you're going to have them sign digitally on their computer with you. Many people still use the paper and then upload it into command. And understand that if you share signatures in command, which is a nice way to go, they then have a copy, which fulfills the law that says anything that someone signs, they have to have a copy of within 24 hours. So you can get the signatures via DocuSign and command. Either way. Okay, you're going to find your own way. There's choices, which I know as a new person is kind of confusing, but there are choices. Just know that if you do hard copy, you have to upload it and make sure your seller gets a copy.
So, okay, so I can, when I go to somebody's house to get a listing, then I get it to sign, I sign it on paper and then upload it, or I can have them sign it right into what? Into Command?
Well, you would have them sign the hard copy. And then you would
sign
upload
it, hard copy and upload.
Yeah, and then you can upload it. Yeah.
So where do we get those hard copies? I guess in the New Jersey MLS or?
You can get it from there, or you can print out of Command.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I hope Go ahead.
Question. Sorry. Maybe you said this already. I came like a couple minutes late.
Okay.
You would get the seller to sign the listing agreement first before you send it to for the broker to sign it, correct?
I'm going to defer you to your broker on that.
Okay. So ask them. Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question. The listing agreement, if you were going to put the listing on the Garden State MLS, would that be a different listing agreement that I would need to use, or?
You know, that's a good question. And both MLSs honor each other's listing agreements.
Okay. So if I use the one that you just showed us, then that would be sufficient for
Correct.
Putting it both Garden State and New Jersey.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So you don't have to have your homeowner sign 2 listing agreements.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Just always, too, I think it's a good idea to upload to Command the MLS printout of both MLSs so you have evidence that they're on both. And you can share it with your homeowner. Share as much as you can with your homeowner. The lead booklet, if it's applicable.
Yes.
The MLSs, everything.
Okay. Patty, quick question. When does the CIS come in?
Good question. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. The CIS is, anybody want to answer that?
Immediately. It's given.
Thank you.
Immediately.
Your first substantive meeting. So you know that phone conversation that you first had where you're asking them the qualifying questions to see if they're motivated? You will at least reference that when you come to do the walkthrough, you're going to take a minute and discuss how you can work together. And you can send it ahead of time to have them sign it. But the CIS, consent to dual agency, the COVID form, those are all for sellers. And you say, but why do I consent for dual agency? Don't we have to wait to see who sells it? No, because it could be someone under your brokerage showing it. So you want to be sure that you have consent to dual agency signed.
Thank you.
I hope I answered a lot of questions for you. Maybe posed a few. And regarding that question about whether you have your broker sign before your sellers, the broker should sign before your sellers. Okay, they should sign. Because they're going to look over the form and then your seller. Because once your seller signs it, it'd be real awkward to go back if your broker has a correction. But confirm that with your broker.